the previous videos, we talked about various parties involved within a contract. There will be employer awarding the project to the contractor, employer nominating the nominated subcontractor and nominated supplier to subcontract the work as well as to supply goods and materials to the contractor. Now these three personnel here have a really close relationship with the contractor. They will have to work together in order to complete the project. In the case that any of them goes wrong, whoever have the problem will have to be removed from this relationship and to be replaced by somebody else. So far we have been to clause 25, which is related to the determinations of the contractor's employment by the employer. We also discussed about clause 26, which is the determinations of the own employment by the contractor. And then under clause 27, regarding the nominated subcontractor, the employment of the nominated subcontractor can also be determined. Under clause 28 about the nominated supplier, the nominations of the nominated supplier can be objected by the contractor. These are among the methods that can remove a personnel from the relationship within a project. It may seem to be quite messy. For that, we will summarize the relationship between these parties and the methods to remove them from the relevant project. First, we look at the first relationship. It is between the employer and the contractor. The outcome here is to remove the contractor from the project. It is either determined by the employer or the contractor remove himself from the project. This is given under the clause 25 and clause 26. The main difference between these two clauses here is that who is the root of the problem. When there is default by the contractor, the employer has the right to remove the contractor from the project, and this is known as determinations of the contractor's employment by the contractor under clause 25. But now if the employer is not fulfilling his obligations and the contractor do not wish to continue, the contractor has the right to withdraw himself from the employment, and this is known as the determinations of the contractor's own employment by the contractor. This may be referred from the clause 26 of PAN Contract 2018. The final outcome here is to have the contractor removed from the project. Only the persons who is default is different. Next, the second relationship here is between the contractor and the nominated subcontractor. We know that the nominated subcontractor is nominated by the employer. If the contractor do not wish to work with this nominated subcontractor, the contractor can make an objection to the nominations. However, they will require valid reasons for the objections. Among the reasons of the objections, this can include the financial standing of this nominated subcontractor, the solvency, whether this nominated subcontractor is bankrupt, and also the technical competency, whether this nominated subcontractor is technically competent for the project. This will have to base on the documented evidence. It shouldn't be any accusations. The relevant clause regarding the objections to the nominations of this nominated subcontractor, it will be from the clause 27.3. Next, in clause 27.8, the contractor can actually determine the employment of this nominated subcontractor. This happens when this nominated subcontractor is default. That means this nominated subcontractor here is not delivering his obligations. However, in order to terminate the nominated subcontractor, this will require the consent from the architect. This consent needs to be written as evidence that architect agreed to remove this nominated subcontractor. There should be written notice to the architect and send a copy to the nominated subcontractor to keep the nominated subcontractor informed. And the nominated subcontractor shall be given chance to respond to the determinations applications by the contractor. Architect will have to listen from both sides before determining whether the nominated subcontractor is to be removed from the project. Another possible options here, it will be the nominated subcontractor decided to withdraw himself from subcontracting the work. This is mainly due to the negligence of the contractor, or the contractors do not fulfill his obligations to the nominated subcontractor. The relevant information you may refer to clause 27.11. What you see here, you have a few ways to remove the nominated subcontractor. One is during the nomination process, the contractor object the engagement of this nominated subcontractor. Another one is when the nominated subcontractor has already been engaged with the project. Now this nominated subcontractor is at default. The contractor chooses to terminate the nominated subcontractor with the consent of the architect. The third one is due to the problem of the contractor that the nominated subcontractor cannot work together with this contractor, and therefore the nominated subcontractor decided to withdraw himself from subcontracting the job. Next, we come to the third relationship, which is between the contractors and the nominated supplier. The nominated supplier is supplying the materials and goods to the contractor, and the only way to remove this nominated supplier, it will be through objections during the nominations. If the contractor do not wish to work together with this nominated supplier, the contractor will need to reject or object the nominations of the nominated supplier from the start, before the nominated supplier has been engaged. The reasons of objections need to come from some valid reasons, which is similar to the nominations of the subcontractor. This will be based on the financial standing, the solvency, as well as the technical competency of this nominated supplier. The relevant details you may refer to clause 28.3. Now the fourth relationship, it will be between the others who are being employed by the employer and not under the responsibility of the contractor. This you may refer from the clause 29. These people here can be the craftsmen, tradesmen, and other contractors engaged by the employer. They have no direct relationship with the contractor, but it is likely that they are servicing the same project or sharing the same construction site. Now the contractor will have to permit them to execute their works so that they can deliver their works to the employer. Under these circumstances, they basically have no relationship with the contractor. There is no mechanism for the contractor to ask these people to be removed from the project. They are fully under the responsibility of the employer.